Okay, so my name is Lucy Tajinski and I am the Matariki Network Manager based in Durham in the UK, but acting equally on behalf of all partners in the network. I'm joined today by Sophie Sowerby, Assistant HR Director for Organisation Development at Durham University, and Denise Lindsay, Head of Organisational Development at the University of Otago. If you just both want to give us a little wave so that we can see who you are. So thank you very much for coming along and supporting this session. Denise and Sophie have both been instrumental in helping to develop this opportunity, and they very kindly offered to come along and explain a little bit more about what it is, how it all works, etc. The structure of today's session is hopefully quite straightforward. We'll start with Sophie presenting a few slides about the opportunity, and then we'll move on to a Q&A section if you've got anything that you would like to ask about the opportunity, the application, that sort of thing. We're not planning to take any questions as the presentation goes through, so please just save up your questions for afterwards, and then if you kind of raise your virtual hand, we'll keep an eye on who wants to ask something, and we'll take all questions at the end, if that's okay. To hopefully minimise any sound disruptions, please could we ask that everybody keeps your microphone muted during the session, unless of course you're asking a question after the presentation. If you're attending today hoping to find a partner to work with on a particular project idea, we will be touching on that a little bit later, and we've prepared a short form for colleagues to complete to give a bit more information about the project ideas that you have, the types of partners you're looking for, etc. And we will be posting a link to that in the chat before the end of this session, so hopefully that will be useful to some people. So without further ado, I'll hand over to you, Sophie, for the presentation, please. Thanks very much.
Brilliant, thanks Lucy, and again, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Lovely to see so many people on the call, and also great welcome to the University of the Western Cape. So colleagues who are on the call from that, so I appreciate you're very new joining this particular group. So without further ado, I'll take you through the presentation, as Lucy said, and we definitely will be sharing these slides afterwards. So if there are things that I skim over quickly and you want to refer to them, you'll be able to access it later on. So this obviously shows you where the Matariki partners are based all around the world, and we are absolutely delighted that we're able to offer this opportunity, which is a new opportunity. We had a trial at offering the grant last year, but I think this year we're really keen to encourage as many colleagues as possible to join us from all of these institutions. So as you may well know, we've been running a leadership programme since 2021, and a number of institutions on the call tonight have been part of that leadership programme. And in fact, I think some of the colleagues on the call tonight have been members of the different cohorts. And it was aimed particularly for professional services colleagues across the Matariki network. We were very mindful that our academic colleagues had a number of different opportunities that helped them to engage with colleagues across the world through the Matariki network. But for professional services staff, we didn't have those opportunities. So we sort of put forward the idea, as I say, some years ago now, and are delighted that we've been running the programme and an alumni cohort since then, and are planning to run one again in 25-26. So those colleagues from the University of Western Cape who just joined us, as I say, hopefully you'll be joining that programme in due course, because I appreciate the time difference is wonderful in that there isn't one to the UK. So I appreciate those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, you have to get up very early in the morning or stay very late at night. But I think University of the Western Cape are about Greenwich Mean Time. So hopefully you'll be able to join the leadership programme. And the whole idea of that leadership programme was to create a space for enhancing networking across professional services, and to introduce colleagues to different leadership and management concepts, and then to discuss as groups how those play out within your own institutions. And what we found that although we are working in very different cultural contexts, maybe, actually the experiences that we find as leaders and managers are very, very similar. It's been a really, really enriching programme as we've gone through the years. And so this engagement grant scheme is almost like a natural next step. And as I say, for our academic colleagues, they've had many opportunities in the past to come together and perhaps share their research disciplines and so on. And there is a seed fund through the Matariki network for academic colleagues. And so we talked a couple of years ago about how useful it would be if we could continue the networking and the learning through the leadership program into perhaps some more concrete projects with outcomes that would benefit both the partner institutions that undertook the projects, but also the network as a whole. And as I say, what we are hoping is that this year we will see that come to fruition. So it's going to be an opportunity for colleagues to consider what are the Matariki guiding principles and values, and then in their context within their institution, think about a particular project that might actually embrace those values and principles, but equally push the boundaries on learning and experience within your own institution and a partner institution. And as we say, that the Matariki values of being critical friends and trusted partners would certainly come to the fore within this process. So the guiding principles, if you're not already aware, are these. I won't read them out, I'll leave you to read through them. And we definitely thought that the fifth one, the purposeful collaboration for improving lives, was something that would perhaps really resonate with the projects. Now, with regards to the projects, what we're expecting is a minimum of 2 institutions to join together. But if we find that there are more than 2 institutions who are interested in pursuing a particular theme of research, then that's absolutely fine. But we'll go over that in due course. Also, there's the Matariki short and mid-term priorities, which again might well help inform what would be an appropriate project to focus on. And again, obviously, that I think we might need to tease out the elements that are particularly pertinent for professional services colleagues. But again, when you read through these and then start to think about the activity that you may be wanting to focus on, I'm sure that you will find causal links, because at the end of the day, I think the Matariki midterm priorities are actually most probably priorities that any HE institution would ally their strategic plans to. So again, it's making sure that you bear in mind the values and the priorities when considering what might be a pertinent project to focus on. So as I say, last year we started the concept of the engagement fund, and we did have quite a number of colleagues coming forward with different thoughts and ideas. We already have these sorts of collaborative activities taking place, mainly between our academic colleagues, but certainly professional service staff. And again, some of you on this call might well have participated in perhaps some of the visits and training opportunities. I know that just recently colleagues went to Tübingen and Uppsala, so I appreciate that you might well have also met with other colleagues in other institutions. And certainly some of the projects that came forward last year as sort of a start of a tentative thinking were around these themes. And so you can see that they are really quite broad and varied. We had one colleague who was quite interested in looking at how they were developing their institutional strategy and gaining staff engagement with that, and came to us to say, were there other institutions within the network who were perhaps embarking on refreshing their institutional strategy, and what were they thinking of as to how they were going to get staff to engage with that. So that was one topic that was raised. Another one was around alumni relations and how to enhance philanthropic donations and perhaps to learn best practice from one another as to how institutions were approaching that. One group came to us and were talking about student experience and wanting to increase the concept of the global citizenship. And in fact, they were quite keen on taking the Matariki leadership program that we've developed for colleagues. As I say, some of you on this call have been in that program, and seeing how we could use it for students. And I know currently we use Common Purpose, so some of your students will be engaging with Common Purpose, which is an international leadership program for all sorts of colleagues, but certainly within the Matariki group, we use it for students. So that comes at quite a significant cost. And so we thought that was quite an interesting concept as to how perhaps we could join forces across other institutions within the network to actually produce some form of virtual global experience for our students that will be incredibly cost effective, and especially perhaps in challenging financial times that we find ourselves. And then the final topic that was brought forward last year was around health and well-being. And again, I don't know whether your institutions have experienced this, but certainly at Durham, during and following the pandemic, we've certainly found that the focus on health and well-being of our colleagues has become paramount importance. And we're spending a lot of time and energy ensuring that we're providing different health and well-being opportunities. And so one colleague came and asked whether that would be something that other colleagues within the network would be interested in sharing some thoughts and ideas on in a project. So those were some proposals that came to us last year. All I would say is that they, in all instances, they had the sort of root of a really interesting project. However, I think because it was such early days, colleagues were really struggling to find either a partner to work with, and we've learnt from that, and we've got some suggestions as to how you might find a partner going forward. We also were, when we had the fund endorsed by the Central Matariki Senior Leaders Group, we had a very short time window from getting it endorsed and approved to actually asking for project submissions, which I think meant that colleagues who were interested, as we were all so busy, really didn't have the time to flesh out their project proposal and get it submitted in due course. So I think those were a couple of our big challenges last year. And as I say, we've certainly listened to that and have made some significant changes, both to the information that we're sharing, also to the size of the fund that people can apply to or apply for, sorry, and also to the way in which you can identify a partner. So I'll take you through that now. Obviously, people often ask, what's in it for me? It's brilliant that we've got so many colleagues on the call this evening, this morning, this afternoon, whenever. We're Denise and I and Lucy were absolutely delighted when the numbers kept going up and up and up, although it started to get a little bit nerve-wracked. But we're absolutely delighted to know that this many people are interested in spending an hour to find out a little bit more. And certainly from our leadership program, the feedback that we've gained from the colleagues who have engaged with that, and we're hoping, as I say, that this project opportunity is a natural next step with that, is that people really have broadened their professional network. People have made excellent connections around the world. Some have met up outside of the leadership program on sort of discipline groups within particular discipline areas. I'm looking at Mike on the call, and I think the library and collections colleagues certainly have met up. Within our own institution at Durham, I know our Matariki leadership program colleagues have met together and have created a network which they mostly would not have really engaged with some of the colleagues before, because they're working in very different parts of the institution. So as I say, we're hoping that the opportunity to actually work with a partner or partners will enhance that professional networking and comparing good practice around the globe. Hopefully people will push the boundaries and learn new skills, or certainly gain different perspectives on day-to-day challenges. And that was certainly something that I gained from participating in the programme and talking with colleagues through the network. And continuing to be part of a community. So I know that Lucy works very hard at creating information, newsletters. She has a LinkedIn site, etc. And we really would encourage colleagues, even if at the end of it you decide that you don't want to participate in the engagement fund, but now that you know we're here, and now that you know that this group exists, is connecting with the leadership group, because it's amazing what knowledge and experience can be shared. So with regards to the application for this year's engagement fund, this is what we're suggesting. As I say, we would like colleagues to consider the network guiding principles. The SDGs, the United Nations SDGs, are also terribly important for the Matariki network. But thinking about those and the values, is there a particular topic or particular area that is something that would be useful for you to spend some more time exploring with a partner colleague to enhance the practice within your institution, within their institution, and hopefully broader across the whole network? What we need you to do is to think about what the goals are for that particular project and the purpose of coming together. You know, why would the funding be awarded to you? What would be the need for that? And interesting, I was talking with a colleague, actually we've been doing some work with a colleague in Ukraine recently, and she was wanting to undertake a bid for a British Council funded project. But actually, as we got talking, she didn't really need the funding. She just needed the connections with different colleagues around particular themes, which we could provide anyway. So do think about why it is that you're asking for the funding. How will that enhance the outputs and the learning that you gain from this connectivity? We do need a timeline, so we need an idea of what you're going to be doing when, within a 12-month period of receiving the award, and also to understand how the skills and expertise that you bring to the actual project, as well as your partner, how that will enhance the outputs of the project. We also want to know what benefits you see it will provide for both you, your partner, and the wider network, and also to think about how you might share that learning or that experience. And then finally, like with any bid, we also need you to think about what risks might exist, you know, single points of failure, etc., and how you would, in broad terms, spend the budget. So we're asking for that within the application form, and I'm sure if you've applied for grants and funds in the past, you will know that that's part of the course. You know, the senior academics that are going to be, who are our academic, our Matariki leads, will be making a judgment on the applications based on the robustness of that submission. And in fact, that was one of the problems we had last year, is that, as I say, colleagues didn't really have enough time perhaps to think it through carefully. So do make sure that you cross all the T's and dot all the I's. I think we also ought to note there, which is at the bottom of this slide, is that we wouldn't be funding activities that would be seen to be normal activities for your department, office or college, and also if it requires recurring funding. So it's deemed to be a one-off project. The travel away from your institution should not be for more than 2 weeks. And also you need to comply with your own institution's policies and procedures. Now I know in some funds that I've seen people apply for, things like travel is capped. You know, you're only allowed to spend a certain amount on travel. We haven't done that, but the actual fund is obviously capped. So just to let you know what that is, because I've alluded to it twice now, people are thinking, what is it? What is it? So in total, we have £20,000, whatever that equates to. Apologies, I haven't done the maths in all the different exchange rates around the world, but £20,000 is the total fund that we have. And the maximum we would give to any one award is £5,000. So obviously, I can just about do the maths on that one. We have, 4 awards of 5,000, but it may be that there are more awards, but they would be less. So that's the sort of money that we're talking about. We have actually increased that significantly from last year. Last year, the maximum was, I think it was 2,000, wasn't it, Janice? I'm waiting to see her put a thumbs up. Yeah. So last year it was £2,000, but again, some of the feedback we've got from colleagues was that actually that wasn't really going to assist them to do what they needed to do. So we've increased the amount that people can bid for, but the total pot has stayed the same. So just to let you know that. So this is, we think, one of the biggest challenges. I'm sure you're all sitting there, and one would hope that because you've logged on at whatever time it is, that you do have a wonderful idea and are really keen to see that through. But this might be the biggest challenge, is finding a partner. And we certainly found that last year. What we, as I said to you, what we've said is that there needs to be a minimum of 2. In some instances, colleagues may already have made some connections, and you know, if there are more than that number, then that's absolutely fine. But the total fund would not increase. So your total top cap fund is 5,000. We would need to have initial expressions of interest. If you haven't got a partner but are interested in the network trying to help you find a partner, what we've introduced this year is a short form, which Lucy will be putting the link in towards the end of the call, where we're asking for, you know, your sort of basic information, you know, email address, name, etc., a short summary of what you would hope the project would cover, but not all the detail of the full application form, but enough to give a potential partner a sort of a feel for what it is that you're wanting to look at. If you have got an institution that you think it would work well for you to connect with, I do appreciate that the time difference is a big challenge, and Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere institutions, not that we should be splitting it that way, but I do know that obviously Southern Hemisphere institutions, timings wise, can be a bit easier. But if there is a particular institution, I know last year we had a colleague who was very interested in what a particular institution, how they dealt with a particular topic, and was keen to work with somebody in that institution. But you might not. You might be just saying, I'd really like to work with a partner, and I really don't mind where they come from. But we're asking for you to indicate if there is a preference, and then our intention would be that we would receive those initial expressions of interest in, and we would then recirculate them back out to the community, so that hopefully there should be, we hope there'll be a list of these are the sorts of projects, this is the contact person who's interested in taking that project forward, and then obviously individuals can then get in touch. And each institution on the call will have a Matariki coordinator. So we will be sending that information to the Matariki coordinator within your institution to then share out with yourselves, and they would agree how they would do that. So these are the Matariki coordinators that exist at the moment. So again, some of you, I hope, will know who your Matariki coordinator is already. And if you didn't, then their email addresses, as I say, will be, these slides will be circulated, so you'll have them. So in Durham, we have Megan, who colleagues will have met previously because she was actually filling Lucy's role last year when Lucy was on maternity leave. So people might have met Megan across the world and at Durham. So we did do a pre-launch in December. So we did speak to those coordinators and let them know about this, which we hope has helped boost the numbers for this evening. So we're absolutely delighted that so many colleagues have somehow heard about what we're doing and have joined us. So we feel that's helped. And they've obviously received all the information that we're talking about now, and will continue to be that connection for you locally. Obviously, as we are here tonight, so the online session is happening now, and as Lucy said, that's being recorded. So colleagues who aren't able to join us will be able to then see that at another point in time. The applications are going to open on the 3rd of February. And as we've said, If you want to find a partner through us, it could be that you already have a partner, which is fine, you don't need to do this bit. But if you don't and would like to find a partner through us, then we would ask that those initial submissions are in by the 21st of February. We've actually set that date to make sure that we've got time to allow people to connect. And then we would ask for the applications to be in by the end of April. And then what will happen? So what will happen next is that there will be a local panel in each institution who will look at the applications that there'll be a lead partner. So say I'm looking at Stuart in my top right hand corner of my screen. Stuart's at Durham. So say Stuart to put forward a bid for a particular project, and he was therefore the lead partner, and he wanted to work with Mike in Otago. Stuart's project bid would go to the Durham panel, and then obviously if it was successful, they would then go through to the final judging panel, which is the International Leads panel, and that will be taking place in the middle of June, and they will make the final decisions as to which projects the Matariki funds will be allocated to. So again, as you will know, there are more Matariki partners than there are enough monies for everyone to have a £5,000 project supported. As I said before, some people may say, actually, we only need £2,000 to do this or whatever, in which case there might be an opportunity to award more. But I think that just to note that it won't be that every institution will have a project supported as the lead project, most probably, but it could be that you're the secondary partner within that project. And we'll be looking to do that. We want to try and encourage as many institutions as possible to be able to participate in this fund. So the central panel, as I say, will meet in mid-June, and then the results will be announced at the end of June so that people will know whether they've been successful or not. They will know if they've been sent forward to that central panel. So some of you, unfortunately, if you don't make it through to that, will know before then. But if you have been put forward to the central panel, you would know by the end of June if you were successful or not. And then the monies will all be awarded within this financial year as it runs in the UK, which is by the 31st of July. So then you would have the monies for a year to spend. Okay. So just to summarise all that, there's lots of moving parts. So there would be a maximum of one award per institution, up to £5,000 per award, at least 2 partner institutions. The applications will open on the 3rd of February, and then we've got that opportunity for potential matching, but you would need to submit that by the 21st of February. And then the final project applications need to be in by the 30th of April. We've developed a sway which has got this information hopefully in a more interesting format than just a slide deck. And also the application form is available through this link, which we'll send out. So the internal panels within your own institution will be in May, the international panel in June, and then the awards made by the end of June. And I think that's it from me. So I'll stop sharing and I'll hand over to Denise, who is going to, along with myself, field any of the questions or chat.
Thank you so much, Sophie. So we would welcome any questions or other points for discussion from the group today. Whilst you were making the presentation, Sophie, we have had one question in chat, which is if an inquiry about whether there is a restriction to people who've participated in the leadership programme. just really pleased to confirm that it's not a prerequisite to have participated in the leadership programme. We refer to it, I guess, because it has been a really interesting example for those of us in the professional staff space to actually experience just how you can actually collaborate with other institutions within the Matariki network. And it's been a really amazing experience to also recognize just how much can now be achieved because of the ways that we can all communicate by forums such as this through Zoom and other means. So that's probably why we refer to it, because it has been a great example of a collaborative exercise. But there is no requirement that you have attended that program. Just would be very interested to know if there are any other questions that people might have. Perhaps either speak up or just raise your hand. Hi, Sophie.
Hi, thanks so much for that. It's really, really helpful to understand. Just a quick question. Are there any restrictions on the length of time for the project? Obviously, you indicate that the funding will last a year. Does it need to be fully taken throughout that whole year? Can it end sort of sooner? I ask because for individuals, for instance, like me, who are on fixed term contracts that end before that year is up, are there any restrictions on that front?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great question, Sophie. And there's a lot of moving parts in that question as well. In terms of the duration of the project, I think there is an expectation that it would be fulfilled during that year, but also there is a desire that there could be ongoing benefits beyond the year, beyond the 12 months. So there is always the possibility that whilst the majority of the project work would be undertaken during that particular period of time, there is, in some instances, a likelihood that the work will continue beyond, recognizing that we are required to report back around outcomes. So my expectation, and this is my personal view because this is our first year of going through this, Sophie, is that the majority of the work would be achieved and there would be outcomes, but I think it's probably likely that in some instances, those connections and work would continue beyond the year.
Great, thank you so much.
Does that answer? Is that, yeah?
Yes, thanks.
Denise, if I may, this is Stuart from Durham.
Hello, Stuart.
You've given some good examples of some previous topics. I'm interested if you've got any examples of outputs or outcomes, what you're actually expecting to see at the end of the project. I understand the process itself is an important outcome, the collaborative working, but I was wondering if there are examples of concrete outputs that you might be looking for.
Okay. So difficult to give anything a live example because this is the first year that this grant has been awarded. But we could see that there could potentially be learnings that come out as a result of this. There could be changes in process. There could be different work streams that are introduced that aren't in existence at the moment. Just thinking of some of the examples that have been raised in the student space, it could well be resources that are created that are shared collaboratively that don't exist at the moment. So we could certainly see when we talked to people before about ideas, Stuart, that there could be potentially resources created that people have access to. There could be people working on particular problems or issues in their professional sphere where there are suggested approaches which could then result in process changes, just as a couple of examples there that immediately come to mind. Sophie, I don't know if there are any other examples that would potentially come to mind for you. Would that cover the majority?
I think so, Denise. Thanks for asking that question, Stuart. I think the only other thing I would say is that we would be expecting a short summary overview, A, to evidence the financial spends from the point of view of rigor in that respect, but B, the outputs of the project, whatever that might be, which can then be reported back to the central group and obviously shared. You know, that's what we would hope. So I agree with you, Denise. I think our vision, and certainly the Matariki lead, so again in our context, Stuart, it's Claire O'Malley, are very keen to see some tangible outputs from these projects that can be shared wider, you know, that don't just benefit the two institutions. Yeah, thank you.
Great, thanks. That's really helpful.
As we have a little bit of time, would anybody like to use this call as an opportunity to explore any particular ideas, or see if there's anybody on the call that could be interested in particular topics? If there is anything that comes to mind, welcome to either speak on the call or pop something in chat if you would like to use this as an opportunity to invite anybody to connect with you. If there's a particular topic that's of interest to you, perhaps pop that in chat and people could see if it's of interest to them. Also, of course, for our colleagues, so for my colleagues here in Otago, if anybody wants to reach out to me separately beyond this call, very happy to meet up, have a conversation over coffee or whatever, and I'm sure that would go for my colleagues in Durham as well. And please don't hesitate to, you know, reach out to any of us individually if there's anything that you would like to explore outside of this conversation. We'd be really keen to explore. It's just so exciting, and because it's so new, we are going into new territory here. So perhaps a conversation could be quite helpful if there's something that's of interest to you and you'd like to maybe just explore and talk about that in a little bit more detail outside of this call. We'd welcome that. Thanks, Sophie. So Sophie's just popped a topic into chat for everybody to have a look at. And if anybody is interested in that particular topic, please don't hesitate to reach out to Sophie. Looking at the impact of research, cultural and professional services members of the research community, looking at different global contexts. And we certainly have people on the call, Sophie, who are involved in the research space, so potentially very relevant.
Yeah, that's great. If anyone is interested, feel free to email me. Email address is in the chat.
Yeah, fantastic. Fantastic. You're Sophie. We've got a question there around the fund continuing for a few more years. Sophie, we certainly hope so. You know, we recognise that you know, we need to put efforts into promoting the fund, encouraging people to participate, and you know, for projects to come out of that and be viewed as valuable by the exec. We're very confident in that. We feel that we have an amazing cohort of professional staff who welcome opportunities to collaborate. So we would certainly hope so. we would probably just give the caveat that it's not our personal, we don't have that potential authority, and we will be reporting into the exec around what's been happening with this particular grant, but we are pretty confident that it will continue as it grows over the years. And Marty, thank you very much for referring there to Horizon Europe.
There was also a good suggestion from Britta, Denise, Britta
Yes.
Hoyes in Tübingen.
Yeah.
I think Britta, it looks like you started to flesh out an idea there, which looks quite exciting.
Yep. Around a joint academic system workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at academic systems in different countries and how careers work. So I'm thinking that, with permission of everybody that has shared in chat, what we can perhaps do is try and capture those ideas. And would you be comfortable if we perhaps pop that onto, try and create some kind of a Sway chat page so that people can connect in and see the contact and the idea and who to connect with?
I think it looks like we've got a connection already, which is fantastic.
It does. Excellent. Go Karen, go Marty. Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, Costas looking at staff exchange or mentorship program.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great idea, Costa.
I think June, I'll beat you to get to the airport to go to New Zealand.
Yeah, we've often talked about that, Sophie,
We
haven't
have, haven't we?
And Linda, interested in the topic of employee wellness. Linda, we have here at Otago recently appointed a staff wellbeing manager for the first time. We're very excited about that role. And one of their first aims is to create a staff wellbeing strategy. So I could potentially connect you in with that person. The name is Susie Bartlett. So I'll keep note of your connection and hook you in there and see what comes from that. Mindful that Durham have also done some excellent work in this space as well.
That would be great if you could do that, Denise. And I've made note of Durham for sure. But we've been around for 3 years now, so I think it would be an opportunity to share some of the things that have worked well with us, and ideas about what we want to do next.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
fantastic.
Excellent.
Fantastic. Don't want to speak on behalf of my colleague, but I think we would certainly welcome that.
Awesome. I look forward to getting the connection.
Yeah. Karen has asked the question, can a project have multiple partners or should they be limited to two? There is no limitation that I'm aware of, apart from being a member of the Matariki network. And in terms of the minimum of two, that would include whoever has applied for the grant. So minimum of two, maximum any number within the group. Recognizing that it will really be your call in terms of what's practical and workable, just referring back to our early conversation around things such as different time zones and what's actually going to be practical, depending on how you're going to be communicating, whether that's by Zoom or by email. Great, so some great ideas coming through. We will be staying on the call afterwards, and we'll ensure that we capture all of this information. I'm just seeing some more information coming through here in chat, so just going to have a look through there. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Queens. Student mobility. Excellent topic. Excellent topic. Recognizing that for many of our institutions, people have travelled and are going to be new to the city and the community. Trying to assist people in making that transition.
Yeah, so I mean, I know, just for everyone on the call, I know how amazing the Matariki community can be. It helped me immensely when I worked in student mobility to work with colleagues on how to improve what we were doing there. And now that I'm in this new role, I've been in it for just about not quite 2 years. And so it's brand new for me, and I'm just really trying to, this is really about employee sustainability. So it's about how do we help folks, and when we're in these university towns, which we all have in common in smaller cities, and how do we help folks find community and settle and want to stay, because that's where we've had some challenges. So that's the challenge in front of me, and I'm looking for, I just would love to connect with people. I've talked with Lucy a little bit about this. And I know some human resource colleagues are on the call, which is awesome too. But yeah, I feel like I've been doing lots of research in Canada with what other universities do, but I always felt like there's not quite the comparison as there is with the Matariki partners. So
excellent.
throwing that out there.
Yeah, very, and a lot of us are in very similar situations, in that we're in a geographically area where there aren't many other institutions around. So there can be issues around topics such as dual partner employment and topics like that, Jenny. Very, very real. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Great idea there. This is fantastic. Isn't it amazing what can happen when you get a group of people on a call and just have a conversation? Some amazing ideas coming out here. And just kind of looking at topics here around focusing on long-term partnership work, how to stay well staffed despite external challenges like conflict in areas, and how to take care of self. Thank you. Excellent. Now, I'm just mindful of time. We're heading into our final few minutes, so probably a good time for us to wrap up this particular conversation, Sophie and Lucy. In terms of what next, all of the information is on Sway. We'll seek to capture the ideas here and pop them on a place that people can connect with. I can certainly think of a couple of colleagues that I would very much like to connect people with, and just connect into the conversation. And I guess that's the way we will operate. We'll just really make that connection, and then it's over to you to have a conversation, see if there is that connectivity there, whether you feel you are similarly aligned in terms of expectations and how things might work going forward. And that's very much your call. We won't have any involvement with that at all. These are your ideas, and very much your consideration in terms of how you would like to take it forward. But just wonderful to see that conversation starting here today with everybody. So from me, thank you very much. Just pass over to my colleagues Sophie and Lucy for final words, and don't hesitate to reach out to us individually as well.
Thanks very much, Denise, and thank you to you, Sophie, as well, for guiding us through that mammoth slide deck, which hopefully gave people a lot more information about how everything works and what's available on offer. It's fantastic, so exciting to see these conversations starting to unfold already. I feel like we're making good progress, and the grant hasn't even opened yet, so it's brilliant to see, really heartening, and hopefully, we've got many more colleagues who were very interested to find out more, who were unable to attend the live session. So as soon as I've figured out how to post the recording onto our website and the Sway page, I will do so. It might take me a couple of days, but hopefully by the end of this week it will be there. And also, as Denise said, we will capture everything that's happened in the chat here, and hopefully make sure that that can also be cascaded around the network, so that anybody who's interested in any of these fantastic ideas knows where to go and who to speak to. So thanks again to everybody for coming along, and to Denise and Sophie in particular for leading the session. And if anybody does have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with any of us. Hopefully we will look forward to reading some brilliant applications in due course. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you very much indeed.